Let me tell you what happened yesterday that has the entire global economy recalculating risk. Trump was flying to Mar-a-Lago on Air Force One. Reporters asked him about the Iran talks in Oman, and Trump gave them the most optimistic assessment anyone's heard in weeks. Now, we likewise had very good talks on Iran. Iran looks like it wants to make a deal very badly. Those are his exact words, very good talks. Iran wants a deal badly. Then Trump said, "We're going to meet again early next week." So the timeline is set. Witkoff and Kushner are heading back to Oman in the next few days, another round of negotiations. Iran showed up ready to talk. America thinks progress is possible. Everything points toward de-escalation. But while Trump was telling reporters about very good talks, the White House was releasing an executive order, signed by Trump the same day. The order imposes secondary tariffs on any country that trades with Iran, not primary sanctions on Iran directly, secondary tariffs on third countries. That means if China buys oil from Iran, America slaps a 25% tariff on Chinese goods coming into the U.S. If Turkey imports natural gas from Iran, America taxes Turkish products. If the UAE purchases fuel oil from Iran, American companies pay more for Emirati imports. This isn't about punishing Iran. This is about punishing everyone who does business with Iran. And the number of countries that trade with Iran, over 100. Now, here's the economic earthquake this creates. China is Iran's largest trading partner, $14 billion in annual trade, according to Trade Data Monitor. China buys Iranian oil, petrochemicals, and liquefied petroleum gas. Iran needs that revenue to survive. And China gets discounted energy while America's attention is elsewhere. But now Trump is forcing China to choose, keep buying from Iran and face 25% tariffs on everything China exports to America, or cut Iran off and maintain access to the U.S. market. China's total exports to America are worth hundreds of billions. Iran's $14 billion doesn't compare, so China has to abandon Iran or watch their entire economy get hit. Iraq is Iran's second largest trading partner, $10.5 billion annually. Most of that is electricity and natural gas that Iran supplies to Iraq because Iraq's power grid can't function without it. Iraq is caught between two masters. America occupies Iraq, protects the government, provides military support. But Iran supplies the energy Iraq needs to keep the lights on. Now Trump is telling Iraq, stop buying from Iran or face tariffs. But if Iraq stops, their cities go dark, their hospitals lose power, their economy collapses. Iraq has no good options, and that's exactly what Trump wants. Force countries to pick sides, America or Iran, no middle ground. The UAE is next. The United Arab Emirates is the largest buyer of Iranian fuel oil. They import massive quantities of liquefied petroleum gas from Iran. The UAE has extensive economic ties with America. Financial centers in Dubai and Abu Dhabi process billions in U.S. dollars. American companies invest heavily in UAE infrastructure. But the UAE also maintains quiet trade relationships with Iran because proximity matters. They're neighbors across the Persian Gulf. Cutting off Iran means losing cheap energy and regional influence. But keeping Iran means risking American tariffs on everything the UAE exports. And the UAE exports a lot more to America than they buy from Iran, so they'll probably choose America, which means Iran loses another major customer. Turkey is in an even worse position. Turkey imported $7.3 billion in goods from Iran last year, up from $4.7 billion the year before. Trade is growing, but Turkey's economy is already struggling. Inflation is crushing the middle class. The currency is weak. Turkish businesses can't afford to lose access to American markets. And Trump's executive order specifically uses Turkey as an example. The order says countries that directly or indirectly purchase, import, or otherwise acquire any goods or services from Iran face tariffs. That's every major Turkish company that buys Iranian natural gas or oil. Turkey's 25-year gas supply contract with Iran expires in 5 months, and there's no indication Turkey is renewing it, because Trump just made renewal impossible. Now, let me tell you what this executive order actually authorizes. It's not a flat 25% tariff automatically applied. It's a framework that gives Trump the power to impose tariffs whenever he wants. The Commerce Department identifies countries trading with Iran. The State Department consults with other agencies and recommends tariff rates. Then Trump decides which countries get hit and how hard. That means Trump can negotiate. He can tell China, stop buying Iranian oil by next month or face tariffs. He can tell the UAE, cut Iran off or watch your exports get taxed. He can use the threat of tariffs to force compliance without actually implementing them. It's economic blackmail with legal cover. And the executive order has a built-in escape clause. It says Trump can modify the tariffs if Iran or an affected country takes significant steps to address the national emergency and align with the United States on national security, foreign policy, and economic matters. If you do what America wants, the tariffs go away. This isn't about trade policy. This is about regime change through economic strangulation. Trump is trying to isolate Iran so completely that their economy collapses, their population revolts, and the government falls. And he's doing it by threatening every country Iran depends on for survival. But here's where Trump's strategy gets complicated. He's telling reporters Iran wants a deal badly. Very good talks. Meeting again next week. That suggests Trump thinks diplomacy is working. But he's also signing orders that destroy Iran's economy and threaten their trading partners. So which is it? Is Trump genuinely trying to negotiate, or is he setting up talks to fail so he can justify military action? The answer is both. Trump is negotiating and preparing for war simultaneously. If Iran makes concessions, he gets a deal and claims victory. If Iran refuses, he uses the failed talks as justification for strikes. Either way, Trump wins politically. Now let me show you how Iran is responding to this. And their response proves they understand exactly what Trump is doing. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi gave an interview after the Oman talks. He said, if Washington attacks us, there is no possibility of attacking U.S. soil, but we will strike their bases in the region. That's Iran admitting they can't hit America directly, but they can hit the 50,000 American troops stationed across the Middle East. Bases in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, Iraq, all within range of Iranian ballistic missiles. Araghchi is threatening to kill American soldiers if Trump strikes Iran. That's not a bluff. That's a promise. Iran's hardline newspaper Kayhan published an editorial that went even further. Kayhan is overseen by a representative of Supreme Leader Khamenei. So when Kayhan speaks, it's reflecting regime thinking. The editorial said, let the enemy be careful that any war it ignites will set the entire region ablaze. And this time its end may be written in Washington, not Tehran. Think about that phrasing, the war's end written in Washington. Iran is threatening to bring the conflict to America somehow. They can't invade. They can't strike the mainland. But they're implying they have options that reach beyond the Middle East. Maybe cyber attacks, maybe terrorist proxies, maybe attacks on American interests globally. Iran is signaling they won't go down quietly. An Iranian lawmaker named Ali Yazdikhah was even more explicit. He said, if a mistake occurs, American carpenters should prepare their coffins. That's Iran telling American forces they're going to die. Prepare coffins, not a metaphor. Actual casualties. Yazdikhah added that if conflict breaks out, its fire would spread to everyone, with U.S. allies hit first. That's Iran threatening Israel, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and every country aligned with America. This isn't defensive rhetoric. This is Iran promising to drag the entire region into war if Trump attacks. And Iran is mobilizing support. Rudaw, a Kurdistan-based news site, reported that 5,000 people in Iraq's Diyala province signed a statement expressing readiness to act as reserve forces for Iran-backed groups if America attacks Iran. 5,000 volunteers in one province. Iraq has 18 provinces. If each province produces even half that number, Iran has tens of thousands of fighters ready to strike American forces in Iraq. That's the proxy war Iran has been preparing for. They can't beat America's military directly, but they can turn Iraq into a bloodbath that forces American withdrawal. Iran's armed forces chief Abdul Rahim Mousavi gave a statement saying any military action against Iran would impose irreparable costs on those who plan or support it. Irreparable costs, not temporary damage, permanent consequences. Mousavi is telling America and Israel that striking Iran means accepting losses they can't recover from. And given that Iran still has thousands of ballistic missiles, that's not an empty threat. One missile salvo could kill hundreds of American troops or Israeli civilians. The Arrow defense system can't intercept everything. Some missiles will get through, and Iran knows it. But here's the contradiction Iran is living with. While their officials threaten coffins and regional war, their negotiators are trying to make a deal. Araghchi said Iran is ready to lower enrichment percentage as part of an agreement. That's Iran offering to reduce uranium enrichment levels, a major concession. Iranian state television described the Oman talks as positive. The Iranian delegation believes another round next week could produce progress. So Iran is simultaneously threatening war and offering compromises, just like Trump is imposing tariffs while praising talks. Both sides are playing double games. Now let me tell you what Israel thinks about all of this. And Israel's position matters because they're the ones who will actually strike Iran if talks fail. Prime Minister Netanyahu met with Witkoff before he left for Oman. Israeli officials say Netanyahu delivered one message: Iran cannot be trusted. Any promises they make will be broken. Netanyahu has been saying this for decades. He opposed the original Iran nuclear deal in 2015. He celebrated when Trump withdrew from it. He ordered the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities last June. Netanyahu's entire political career is built on the premise that Iran is an existential threat that must be eliminated, not managed. and Israeli officials are already saying a deal is unlikely. According to the Times of Israel, Israel wants Iran to show up to next week's meeting with a tangible concession on the nuclear issue. Not promises, not frameworks, actual verifiable steps, like shipping enriched uranium out of the country, dismantling centrifuges, allowing permanent inspectors into military sites. Israel doesn't believe Iran will do any of that. So Israel is preparing for talks to fail, which means preparing to strike. But Israel has a problem. Their Arrow interceptor stockpiles are still low from the last war with Iran. The 12-day conflict in June killed 33 Israelis, wounded 3,500, and caused $1.5 billion in damage. Israel's air defenses prevented catastrophic losses, but they fired so many interceptors that supplies ran dangerously low. America has been resupplying Israel, but not fast enough. If Iran launches another massive missile barrage, Israel might not be able to stop it all. That's why Netanyahu is being cautious. He wants America to strike Iran first, degrade Iran's missile capabilities. Then Israel can finish the job without risking their own cities. Trump understands this dynamic. That's why he keeps talking about the USS Abraham Lincoln and the Armada heading to Iran. He's positioning assets so Israel knows America is ready to act. But Trump also wants Israel to be patient. Give talks one more chance. See if Iran blinks under the pressure of secondary tariffs and military threats. If Iran doesn't concede, then Trump and Netanyahu strike together. Overwhelming force, regime change operation, end the threat permanently. But if they can get Iran to surrender without firing a shot, that's better, cheaper. Fewer casualties, less risk of regional war. Here's what the secondary tariffs are really designed to do. Trump isn't trying to change Iran's behavior through economic pressure. He's trying to collapse their economy so fast that the regime can't survive. Iran's government relies on oil revenue to fund the IRGC, pay government salaries, subsidize food and fuel, and maintain control. Cut off oil exports and the regime runs out of money within months. The Iranian people are already furious after the January massacre. 30,000 dead in protests. The population hates the government. All they need is economic collapse to trigger another uprising. And this time, Trump is hoping the regime falls. But Iran's leadership knows this. That's why they're threatening war. They're telling Trump, if you collapse our economy, we take the region down with us, close the Strait of Hormuz, attack Saudi oil facilities, hit Israeli cities with missiles, activate every proxy from Hezbollah to the Houthis. Turn the Middle East into a war zone that destroys global energy markets. Oil hits $200 a barrel. Global recession. Trump's entire economic agenda collapses. Iran thinks that threat will make Trump negotiate instead of strike. The problem is Trump might not care. He invaded Venezuela and kidnapped their president. He bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. He assassinated Soleimani. Trump has shown he's willing to accept short-term economic pain for long-term strategic gains. If crushing Iran requires a temporary oil shock, Trump might take that deal, especially if he can blame the recession on Iran and rally Americans around the flag during wartime. Trump's political calculations are different from Iran's. Iran thinks economic threats will deter Trump, but Trump thinks war might save his presidency. Now, here's the timeline everyone is watching. Trump said talks will resume early next week. That's 3 to 5 days from now. The location is still Oman, Witkoff and Kushner representing America, Araghchi representing Iran. The agenda is nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and regional behavior. America wants everything on the table. Iran wants to limit discussions to just the nuclear issue. That disagreement alone could collapse talks. But let's say they find common ground. What does a deal look like? America demands Iran dismantle enrichment capacity, ship uranium out of the country, destroy ballistic missiles, cut support to proxies, and allow permanent inspections. Iran demands sanctions relief, tariff removal, unfrozen assets, and security guarantees. Those positions are miles apart. Israel is demanding Trump not lift tariffs or sanctions until Iran proves compliance, not promises. Proof. That means months or years of verification before Iran gets economic relief. But Iran needs immediate sanctions relief to prevent economic collapse and regime overthrow. They can't wait months. So even if Trump and Iran agree on paper, implementation will be impossible. Israel will sabotage it. Iran will cheat. And within weeks, everyone's back to threatening war. That's why Israeli officials say a deal is unlikely. They've seen this movie before. But what if Iran surprises everyone? What if they show up next week and offer to ship 400 kilograms of enriched uranium to Russia immediately? Hand over their stockpile as a good faith gesture. Trump could claim that as a huge win. Iran proves they're serious. Talks continue. Tariffs get suspended. Military threats ease. Everyone steps back from the brink. Is that possible? Maybe, but Iran's hardliners would see it as surrender. Khamenei's entire legitimacy is built on resisting America. If he's seen giving in to Trump's threats, his own revolutionary guards might overthrow him. So even if Iran's negotiators want to make a deal, Iran's military might not let them. And Trump has the same problem. His base wants him to be tough on Iran. If he makes a deal that looks weak, his supporters will abandon him. So Trump needs a deal deal that looks like Iran surrendered completely, total dismantlement of nuclear program, total abandonment of regional proxies, total submission to American demands, anything less, and Trump looks soft. But Iran can't agree to that without triggering internal revolt. So both sides need the other to surrender unconditionally, which means no deal is possible, which means we're headed for war. Here's what you need to watch in the next 48 to 72 hours before next week's talks. First, watch oil prices. If crude jumps above $85 a barrel, markets think war is coming. Second, watch China's response to the tariffs. If China announces they're cutting Iranian oil imports, Iran is doomed. Their economy collapses without Chinese buyers. Third, watch American military movements. If additional carrier groups deploy, if bomber squadrons move to the Gulf, if Israel mobilizes reserves, that's the signal. Fourth, watch Iran's rhetoric. If Khamenei gives a speech threatening America, talks are dead. If he stays quiet, maybe there's hope. Fifth, watch the UAE and Turkey. If they announce they're complying with American tariffs and cutting Iran off, Iran has no friends left. And watch what Trump does this weekend. If he tweets more threats, he's keeping pressure on Iran before talks. If he stays quiet, he's giving Iran space to prepare concessions. Trump's social media tells you his strategy. Right now, he's playing good cop. Very good talks. Iran wants a deal. Meeting next week. That's Trump trying to look reasonable while the tariffs do the real work. The tariffs are the bad cop, crushing Iran's economy, threatening their trading partners, forcing them to surrender or collapse. Next week's talks are the moment of truth. Either Iran shows up with major concessions and Trump suspends tariffs, or Iran refuses and Trump uses the failed talks to justify military action. There's no middle ground left. The secondary tariffs guarantee that. Because every day those tariffs exist, China and Turkey and the UAE are calculating whether they can afford to keep trading with Iran. And the answer for most of them is no. They'll abandon Iran to save their own economies, which means Iran is alone, facing American military threats, Israeli strike plans, economic strangulation, and a population that's one food shortage away from revolution. Trump just told the world Iran wants a deal badly. And he's right. Iran does want a deal, because without one, their regime doesn't survive the year. But Trump also imposed tariffs that make a deal almost impossible, because Iran can't agree to America's demands without triggering internal collapse. And America can't accept anything less than total surrender without looking weak. So we're watching two countries negotiate while preparing for war, both hoping the other blinks first, both knowing that if neither blinks, the entire Middle East explodes. The very good talks Trump described might produce a deal. Or they might be the last conversation before the missiles start flying. And we're about to find out which. Trump just said America had very good talks with Iran. Iran wants a deal badly. They're meeting again early next week. But on the same day Trump said those words, he signed an executive order imposing 25% tariffs on over 100 countries that trade with Iran. And Iran responded by threatening to prepare coffins for American troops. Here's what I need from you. If you think Iran will make major concessions at next week's talks, comment Iran surrenders. If you think the talks will collapse and war starts, comment war coming. And if you think Trump is bluffing and will make a weak deal, comment Trump caves. Smash that like button if you want daily coverage of the countdown to next week's talks. We're tracking every tariff impact, every Iranian threat, every military movement. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because when Iran and America sit down again, you'll know immediately whether we get peace or war. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand why Trump is praising talks while crushing Iran's economy. The contradiction reveals the strategy, and the strategy determines whether we avoid war or dive into it. Drop your prediction below. Iran surrenders, war coming, or Trump caves. Because next week's talks happen while China is losing $14 billion in trade, while Iran is threatening U.S. bases, and while Israel is planning strikes. Something has to give. And when it does, the entire Middle East changes forever. Thanks for watching. Now we wait to see if very good talks lead to a very good deal, or if they're just the calm before the storm.